Welcome to Bytes of Code. In this video we're going to continue our tic-tac-toe tutorial where we ended off in our last video was just making the board. So we're just showing the user where they or what they would need to input in order to go in these spaces. For example, they would type in the number 5 if they want to go in the middle. But now actually we want to start integrating the user. We want to start letting them move around on the board. So that's what we're going to focus on in this video. Let's start with making a player variable. This player variable is going to switch between X and O. So when we make it X for the first time, and then we'll read later on, okay, X went. So that means we're going to change the current player to O. So this is basically going to be the X and O, but we're setting it first to X. X will be the first player, so that's why it is now the current player in our variable. So we want to also show to the user, we want an input statement because we want to get their turn. We want to see what they type. Is it they type the 2 or they type the 6? And this is something now that's pretty new that we're going to go over. It's called f-string or string format. And basically what this is you use your usual string, like you say your move, but instead of adding variables with a plus or even with a comma for print statements, we would actually add our variables with squiggly brackets. So in this case, it would be current player. And this apostrophe would actually go all the way in here. So our whole string, our whole message or phrase is similar to before where we have our actual string, but we actually include with our squiggly brackets a variable. And then we make sure to include that within our string or phrase with ending with an apostrophe. So for example, if I were to remove the F, it's just that one character, just F, we would say your move current player. But we want to say your move X, where the current player is the variable. So we type in F. That's telling this string that we want it to be formatted. So it's going to understand that there's going to be variables in here identified with squiggly brackets, and now it says your move X. And this is extremely convenient because you can just add variables inside of a string without really having to worry about the placement of the plus sign or the comma, adding spaces, or adding extra apostrophes or quotation marks because you're now adding more variables. So it's extremely convenient, and this is pretty much now the preferred way of handling variables in strings for prints or inputs. So this is what we're going to be using now. We're going to be using F. Again, it's called f-string or string format. Of course, again, you could get the same result. Let's do an example. You could get the same result if we just took out current player variable, we took out the F, and we just did like a plus. Let's just, take a look at this. And we see the two lines here. They're exactly the same, except this one doesn't have a colon. But this one, the very first line, is pretty much going to be the easier to read and write line. So we're going to be using that now. Again, it's called f-string, and we use it in this example for our input, but you can use it for prints also. So let's get used to seeing that more often. The other way is very easy to read and kind of understand for a beginner and first time, but since we're moving on in the world and in our programming progress, we're going to start using this F. So let's go ahead and get this input assigned to a variable. Let's do user move. So now we have the user's move. What are we going to do with it? What we want to do is we want to start updating our board. So the board is going to be equal that key. The user is actually putting in a key. They don't really know it, but the user is putting in a key to our dictionary. So when they type in 1, we're actually unlocking this area of our dictionary. So in this case, we want to we want to access the user move in that dictionary, because now we're going to assign it to the actual current player. Remember, our current player is a variable right here. So what we're telling the dictionary right now is the board, which is the dictionary, at position, let's just say number 1, will now be equal to the current player, which in this case is X. So this is all happening right now behind the scenes. There's not really a good way to show what's happening. So we're going to go ahead and print the board again. So your move X, let's type in 1, and we see here now instead of 1, we have the actual string X. That's exactly what we want. Now we can see our user is moving on our board. Of course, we have a couple problems here. I don't want to show X, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So what we're going to do is we're going to do another function here. Well, also, this is starting to creep into the programming logic aspect of this tutorial. So what I would recommend is, before I give the answer, so to speak, I would recommend pausing the video and taking like a minute or 2 minutes to just see what is the solution to get these numbers off of the board. This is not something that we want to show while the user is playing the game. So take a second, pause the video, see if you can kind of come up with a solution. I'm going to give you the solution in 3, 2, 1. Let's do clear. What I want to do is clear the board. So I'm going to do a separate function to clear the board, and what this is really going to do is this is just going to do a for loop of all the keys. We're going to go all the keys in the dictionary of board, and we're just going to start assigning values to those keys. So we're getting an error here. Board doesn't exist because this is going to be a parameter that we're going to pass into this function clear board. So what we have here is we have a new function, clear board. It takes in a dictionary. In this case, we're going to be passing it the board, and it says for every key in this board, loop through it and assign it an empty string. Well, it's with a space, so technically it's just an empty space. And I'm going to use this function right after I show it the board for the first time. So we're going to say show the board for the first time, and then right after that I want to go ahead and clear this board, the board. So let's go ahead and run this and let's see what this comes up with. Okay, so it looks the same. Nothing looks different, but now when we actually use the board, we can see it's cleared. So at this point, the user is able to make their move, and they can see their move on the board. In the next video, we're going to start integrating loops so the user can make moves again and again without being interrupted. Right now, we see that the game actually has ended. So we're going to be integrating a while loop in the next video. But if you have any questions on any of this, please leave it in the comments section. Also, please drop a like if you haven't already subscribed. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you at the next video.